So today I'm talking about stress in business and when things outside of your control don't go your way and how you can potentially deal with them a little bit better. So if you're a business owner, an entrepreneur, or stuff just doesn't go your way and it's outside your control, keep on watching, keep on listening. Hope you'll find this useful. Welcome back to consecutive day 1606 of a diary of a Runpreneur. If you believe in my mission of saving the lives of children by attempting the ultimate ultramarathon of run vlogging on consecutive days, a distance of a lap of the world, barefoot style, then do give this a subscribe, share, like and comment. More people we get in front of, more money we raise, more children's lives we save, which is why I do this every single day. Thank you as always, and let's get started. So, consecutive day 1606 of a diary of a Runpreneur. And today's topic is all about when things don't go your way, it creates a huge amount of stress, especially when things are outside of your control. So this would be very, very applicable to business owners, entrepreneurs, or just people in life when things don't go your way and you feel stuck between a rock and a hard place because it's completely outside your control. So how do we kind of deal with this? How do we process these scenarios to kind of keep stress levels to a minimum? So ultimately, the reason I'm doing this episode is because I'm in one of those situations at this moment in time. And if truth be told, it's something that's really, really difficult. I find really hard. I've got a couple of situations that I'm contending with at the moment, which have created quite a lot of stress for me personally, and both of them are outside of my control. So first and foremost, I've vlogged about this in the past where there's been a mistake by a member of my team. We didn't respond to a claim against our company when 100,000% we're not liable for a debt. Somebody's just chanced their luck at putting a claim in against something, feeling that they had loss of earnings. So put it in perspective, we were going to take on a property on a lease. We hadn't signed any contracts because we were waiting for the social housing provider to approve the address, which is standard protocol. We'd never sign anything until we know that we've got our tenants lined up. They pulled out for whatever reason, and so we pulled out. Now, we signed nothing with the landlord. There's no legally binding document. The landlord chose to hold the property for us on the basis that we were very hopeful that we were going to get an approval. Now, because it didn't go his way, he then submits a claim for loss of earnings that we haven't proceeded with a contract we hadn't even signed. So we've had legal advice, we've been informed we're 100% not liable and to fight this claim. The downside is the person who's dealing with this claim, who's dealing with the actual process, didn't submit a defence for us within the timeline permitted when we had the claim issued against us. Now, the problem is that this individual was due to deal with it, then went off on off sick for personal reasons. Well, not off sick, had personal issues that they had to contend with, which clearly took priority from their perspective. But there was no handover, no nothing done, and ultimately our time to submit a defence completely lapsed. Now, as a result, in the UK legal system, judgment was served against us. Even though we've had legal advice saying 100 million% we're not liable for this, and to fight it, we now have a judgment served against us, which in the UK is known as a CCJ, or a county court judgment, and it has a huge impact on credit worthiness of the company. So we're then presented with a scenario where we need to appeal this. Now, appeals, the success rate of appeals are incredibly low because you get a big enough time frame to submit a defence. And regardless of the situation we faced ourselves, I'm sure any judge or a court of law has heard every kind of excuse in the book for why a defence wasn't submitted in time. So the likelihood of us getting a successful appeal is very slim. The debt is 10.5 grand. It's quite a big amount of money. And ultimately, I'm now left with a scenario that we've tried to battle this in the last couple of weeks, and we've submitted all of the different kind of appeal protocols, and we've spoken to many different legal professionals, and it looks as though our appeal won't be assessed within the timeline of getting this county court judgment removed automatically if we paid it. So we're now left with a scenario where we either pay a debt that we're not due, to ensure that we don't get a county court judgment, it disappears from our record and our creditworthiness is protected, or we take a chance, try and appeal, and even if the appeal goes against us, we then have to pay the judgment anyway, and we can't get the judgment removed for 6 years on the record. So I've had to make a difficult decision to pay it. It's horrible, we don't owe it, it's completely a mistake by somebody who was supposed to be dealing with it, but did they intentionally make that mistake? No. And they had extenuating circumstances for why it was missed. So, but that doesn't make it any easier for me. It's still incredibly stressful. So we have to do the payment tomorrow, basically. So it is what it is. That's one thing that's kind of outside of my control. I'm relying on so many different other people, and it could have so easily been avoided. But anyway, that's one. The next one is one of our biggest providers of property stock. Has had some pretty significant changes of ownership, and we have a lot of contracts, a lot of legal kind of attachment to them as a business, as one of our main suppliers in our supply chain. And we're trying to get communication with the new owners and a pathway forwards. It could be a really positive thing, but it also might be that the new owners want to take the business in a completely different direction, which doesn't involve us. Now, either option we can deal with, not a problem, but we need to understand and have some clarity and some transparency about these quite significant changes in the structuring of that company, so that we can, deal with it accordingly. And again, it's one of those things where we've got all these contracts and things in place, we've got a pathway of moving forward, and all of a sudden a pretty sudden change of ownership happens. We haven't been communicated to in the appropriate ways, and as a result we're now playing catch up to try and understand where we stand, whether our contracts that we currently have in place are going to be honoured, and how the relationship, which is supposed to be a collaborative one, is going to develop or not develop, as it may appear, over the coming weeks and months. There's been a huge amount of work with this company to get a pathway forward, which we thought we had solved within the last couple of months, only to get thrown another absolute spanner in the works. Now, again, the frustration I have today is that it's the lack of communication, and it's then you've got different personnel members who are trying to figure out where everything's up to and all these types of things, and to try and give us an update is the people we're talking to now, the people we're going to be talking to in the future. So all these things kind of create the unknown, and for me, as always, I'm quite good when it comes to having facts, figures, data, evidence, whatever the situation may be. It could be catastrophic news, or it could be the most amazing news in the world. If I have the facts, the figures, the evidence in front of me, then I can assess things, put some contingency plans in place, and ultimately have a strategy to deal with whatever we're going to have to deal with. But it's when you're playing the waiting game and you're struggling to get hold of the right person, or they're not calling you back when they're supposed to be calling you back, or they're not just being clear with transparency and communication. They could just say, I'm sorry, I don't have an answer at this moment in time. I'm endeavouring to find one out today, but I will come back to you tomorrow. Just regular touch points does a lot to kind of appease the uncertainty and the stress that the unknown creates. Because especially if you're someone with ADHD like me, my mind just races in all kinds of different directions, and I don't know how the scenario is going to pan out. If I have an understanding about the different scenarios, then I can plan and put mechanisms in place which de-stresses my position, because once I have a plan, it genuinely makes me feel much better about the situation, because I have a direction. If I don't have a direction, or I have absolute chaos and unanswered questions, it creates a huge amount of stress in my world. So I'm going to try and summarise this now. So the learnings from my diary today are that when stuff doesn't go your way and you don't have any control about it, human nature is natural to worry. And I think there are some kind of steps that you can follow here to try and help resolve that huge amount of anxiety that comes with worrying about things you can't control. First and foremost, it's trying to put some perspective around the situation and trying to rationalise or put some logic to the scenario. And what I mean by that is you can only deal with the facts that you have. You can't deal with assumptions and worrying about things that haven't happened or haven't ever happened or may not ever happen. You know, these are all assumptions, and assumptions can really, really trip you up if you're not careful. So try to, glean over the whole situation and just pull out the factual information that you have at hand. And even if it is a case of, right, the fact is, this has happened, I'm trying to get an update from somebody who is due to give me an update and they haven't yet given me an update. Well, the fact is, there's been no response at this moment in time. Now, there could be 1,001 reasons for not having some form of response, okay? And instantly human nature will be that, oh, he's trying to do me over or defraud me or something along those lines. That's what inevitably human nature will make us worry about. But it could be that he's stuck in a meeting, his child's poorly, fair enough, a text message or some brief communication would do a lot to remove this anxiety or worry. But that's not always going to happen. It's not always the case. People get caught up in their own agendas, and ultimately everybody in this world, no matter how philanthropic they may be, will always have their own personal agenda. There's always a reason for them to do something, and the assumptions can really, really trip us up. So try and just gather the facts, the evidence, and then trust that everything else will take care of itself. And try and then look at scenario analysis. So if I don't get a response by this date, this is what action I will take. If I get, or I'll send this communication then, and have a plan to deal with the scenario that you're facing. It might not be the perfect plan, but having a plan is better than having no plan, 100%. So, and having a plan makes you feel like you've made some form of progress, and again, that can reduce the amount of anxiety and worry. And then the final one will be that I remember one of my first ever business mentors, Mark Homer, famously said in one of his books that, do you know what, if something bad happens, it's probably not that bad. And if something good happens, great, but it's probably not that good. And that's just keeping a balanced overview of situations, and that whatever happens, there will be choices to be made once that's happened. Now, ultimately, there are extreme situations where it's very difficult to put some kind of balanced, positive spin on, but 99 times out of 100, that isn't the case. So just try and remember that. If something bad happens, it's bad. Yes, we're going to need to deal with it. It's probably not that bad. And if something's good, great, celebrate. But it's probably not that good. And I think that's a nice way to end this episode. So questions or comments, drop me a line. I'll respond to everyone. Do remember though, if you believe in my mission of saving the lives of children by attempting the ultimate ultra marathon of run vlogging on consecutive days of distance for half the world, barefoot style, do give this a subscribe, share, like and comment. More people we get in front of, more money we raise, more children's lives we save, which is why I do this every single day. Thank you as always. Stay positive, stay happy. I'll see you again tomorrow.